Hi, I'm Matt and welcome to, my Mini Talon overview. And I thought it would be a really good idea to give you an overview of my Mini Talon because today is her maiden day and I thought we'd catch her while she's still looking pretty. Now do note this is a build for 2017 and I've learnt a lot by watching other episodes on YouTube, so what I'm going to be doing in this episode is not a build episode. We've already been and got a build. But what I'm going to do, we're going to work from the back to the front and I'm going to cover everything which I've been and put in my setup. And also at the end of this episode, I'm going to take a load of photographs for you and we'll run through a gallery of each individual component so that you can take away some build tips for your Mini Talon. Now, I would actually like to say that I was wrong. When I originally bought this model, I actually went on record and said it was insert your own term, ugly. And the more that I've been and worked on this model, the more I really like it. I honestly said at the beginning, it wasn't particularly attractive. And now I've actually really grown to like it. So I'm super impressed with the final finish. And yeah, today is Maiden Day. And I sincerely hope that everything goes well. Now, if you'd like to see the Maiden, that'll be out on my YouTube channel in a couple of days' time. Fingers crossed, everything should be fine. So with that said, let's start off with the origins of this model. In short, one of the guys which I fly with, Dave's got one. And yeah, these things cruise around at like 40 miles an hour, only drawing about 6 amps from the motor on the back. Absolutely bonkers flight efficiency, crazy models, and of course I had to get one, so I bought mine from Banggood. Now do note, this one was bought out of my own money, so it turned up within a couple of days. I bought it from the EU warehouse. There was a nick or dent in the wing which is still there today. That annoyed me a touch, but that said, everything was in the kit which I needed, for the model wise. Obviously you may got an indication that I've got a vector sat on the front. I've done some custom 3D print work as well, and I had to apply servos and receiver and video transmitter. It was just a basic kit which I bought. Now, fantastic value for money for what is 50 quid's worth of foam. Compare that to other models which you can buy for 50 quid. This one is absolutely fantastic. In fact, I'm actually going to go and put this episode in the models which you can buy for 50 quid or less, because it is a fantastic bit of model, whether you're going to be doing medium to long range FPV or you just want something to spank around on the flight line. These can be seriously overpowered and they'll love you for it as well. If you look up on U-Balls, there are plenty of videos of these being spanked around line of sight and they are crazy fast and super aerobatic. But for me, this is an FPV platform. Now, we're going to work from the back to the front. Now, like I said, I'll include a gallery of photographs so that if you are interested in building one of these, I hope the gallery at the end will help you. And of course, if you have any questions about this model, please and the setup which I'm using, please just ask in the comment section underneath this episode. So at the back, in fact, let me just go and pick her up and turn her around. And I'll put this on the iPad so you can see it. So the motor at the back is a Sunny Sky X2216 1250 kV motor, run it in 8x6 prop. That is the best combination for 4S with that motor. Like I said, it will cruise 30-40 miles an hour and only pull about 6 amps. So you can cover an awful lot of ground very quickly. Also, when I was putting the motor mount in, I didn't use epoxy. What I actually used was goop plumbing glue. I'm sure you've heard me mention this numerous times on my channel. It is my go-to glue. I like that glue because it's like a rubberized glue. So I have used an excessive amount of goop glue to hold that motor mount in. Then moving forwards in here, the tail fins. This is the first V-tail model which I've had, which is very curious, if I'm frankly honest, and I'll do a separate setup episode on how V-tails work. I am using the Tower Pro MG90S servos in the back. Oh, do note, I did put a video out a short while ago. One of the little connectors on top of the control horn, it came and it wasn't pre-drilled out. Bit odd, but had me stumped. So I went trying to push the rod in it. It won't go in because there was no hole. A nightmare. You will also notice that I have been and laminated this model. It doesn't need laminating, but that said, I saw that Dave, remember that other chap which I've seen has got one of these, he had laminated his model, and also with it being still like winter here in the United Kingdom, I did feel that that was a prudent idea. Now I'm using 75 micron covering film. It's not even covering film, it's just laminate, which I've bought off eBay for about 14 quid for 2 rolls. And it did take a while to laminate it. There's a lot of awkward, believe it or not, there's a lot of awkward pieces, especially around this tail section and up to the nose. It did take us a good couple of days, to be brutally honest. But the wings tops themselves, this is some Hobby King silver chrome covering film which I've used, and it's come out fantastically well. Anyway, let's getting back from working from the back towards the front. I have used my own control horns. I didn't like the ones which were provided, so I am using my own for those instead. I do have a Flytron strobe light here on the back. That's to help Dave, so when we're chasing each other, so Dave can find the model in the sky an awful lot easier. Again, moving forward, so I'm just going to stay on the outside. Now, I've seen some real crappy hacks for the actual top lid. And what I've done here is that I've simply just used a piece of tape folded up and around and used another bit of glass fibre tape on the front to make a hinge. And like I said, I will include lots of photographs at the end for you. So if you can't see a specific detail, then look out for the photographs at the end. So what I have been done is just use some glass fibre tape to make a hinge. That will sit down very snugly in there, and there's no chance that's going to blow out. I've seen people with theirs like folding that way, and I'm like, why are you doing that? This way, even if that did come loose in flight for whatever reason, the wind is going to blow it back down again. So nice and simple method, bit of tape, works really, really well. Now this top lid section is probably like the crappiest part of the entire model. You will see, well, you may be able to see on the iPad, but there's a line, I'll use a pencil on here, there's a line of carbon fibre here, there's another 2 pieces of carbon fibre strip here, and another piece, 2 pieces on the top, and underneath we've got another piece in here. I've got 2 pieces of carbon rod either side as well. This is the weakest part of the entire model, so you will definitely want to put some carbon fibre strip in there to strengthen it up, because it's not going to last you more than a couple of flights of opening up and down this door. And by the way, I definitely did not use the little wooden plates and the screws for it. I thought that was just ridiculous for the flight line. I just like simple, so I can just bang it in and then just pull it back open again. Again, staying on the outside, the layout of components. Now, I have seen people with their receiver back here on their model. I really didn't like that. Now, there's 4 key components for this model, and it's very simply, we have the motor and the ESC, and those are at the back. Now, like I said, that's an X2216 1250K Sunny Sky motor. I do have a plush 60 amp ESC in there, which is complete overkill. You probably only ever need to run on a 40 amp ESC, but I had that one spared. The weight was good, so I've used that one. I also did extend the motor wires as well, so I could have the ESC forwards a little bit. Like I said, the 4 key components, motor and ESC, they are at the back of the model. Then on her right wing, we have the video transmitter, and I'll show you the underside in a moment so you can see what I've done with the wiring looms. But we've got the video transmitter out here on the right wing. On the left wing, I cut a trench, and I've got a 3D printed little bracket for the FR Sky L9R on this side. And then at the front, I've mounted, in fact, let me pick her up and turn around the opposite way, is that I've got the Vector GPS unit sat on the front here, and then I've got the run cam and Runcam 2, well, that's a Runcam Hour Plus, one of the best FPV cameras I've come across so far. Again, especially considering the crappy weather we got here in the United Kingdom, that does cope exceptionally well with poor lighting conditions. We've got the Runcam 2 up here, and that's the set. I've gone for like maximum separation. We've got the noisy components at the back, we've got the receiver on that wing, we've got the video transmitter on this wing, we've got the GPS here in the middle, and then we've got our FPV kit on there. Maximum separation between the 4 key components. Now, I've seen other people do different layouts, and yes, technically it's going to be a little bit right hand heavy because I've pushed this one right out the wing. I'm okay with that. I'll have to put a little bit of trim in it. That's something which I'm personally very happy with. It's not balanced necessarily from left to right because the video transmitter is heavier than the receiver itself. That's why it's wanting to... I was going to go that way now. I thought it was going to sit this way. Right. On to the underside. So let's turn her over and take a look. Now I do need to go careful. So let's pop her up round this way. And again, you'll see the laminate up underneath here. Now I've seen lots of different ideas, and let me just get to sit there nicely. When it comes to this tail area over here, like I said, I'll put photographs at the end of this episode for you, is that what I have elected to do is put a thick piece of 5mm carbon fibre strip, and I've run that down into the fuselage. I've not used a little wooden insert. Again, it seems to be there's 2 weak points on this model. Number one is that top lid, which we just discussed, and the other one is this tail fin piece area as well. So I've gone for some epoxy and some carbon fibre strip. I do feel that should be super strong. I will know later today on how well that works out, and I've also put plenty of glass fibre tape on the rear, and also put plenty of laminate over the top as well. Now on the underside, you will see that I've been and created some custom wiring looms. Now I'm not too sure how well this is going to come out on the iPad, but you will see we have, what is on that side? I think that should be the video transmitter. Yes, we have the video transmitter on a right wing. You'll see that, again, I'm just moving this around. Apologies for me moving this around. I'll just leave all these edits in. But we've got, I like to use a physical restraint for the video transmitters. That is a resealable cable tie or cable strap, so that if I do need to change the channel on the flight line, I can do. And also we have a physical restraint on top of that video transmitter too. If I just use tape, for example, then there is the possibility that the video transmitter gets hot, the glue could come unstuck, and we could lose the video transmitter in flight. So I always go for a mechanical fixing. I have also used a piece of ID card on here as well, so that's a nice stiff piece for it to stick into. Also, which I don't think you're going to be able to see from this side. You can just see it. Now previously I was using some carbon fibre strip, but instead what I did, I got a 6mm piece of ID card, plastic ID card, like one of these gift cards for example, and I've embedded that in the wing either side of the video transmitter. And what that now allows us to do is that I can pull that cable tie up nice and tight, and it won't depress the foam over time. It's just an extra bit of restraint in there for the video transmitter. Turning it back up the other way, I did make some custom wiring looms. I will put a full parts list in the video description for you. I am using twisted servo extension leads as my wiring looms. Again, those are high quality ones. They do cost more than the cheap extension leads, but because they're twisted, they will keep interference down. If interference is lower, it means that you can fly further and you have a better signal coming out of your video transmitter. And the same for your receiver, you get a better received signal. Well, you have a cleaner signal coming into your vector or whatever flight controller, if any, which you're using. We have, again, the Tower Pro MG90 servos. Oh, one other thing which I did notice, and I'll just make a point on this one, is that underneath this line here, we have one of the carbon spars. And what I noticed when I was test fitting one of the carbon spars to go in, when I pulled it back out again, this tube came out. So a big tip for you, you do have holes in the wings. Just turn your wing upside down and just drop a bit of CA glue down those, obviously on both sides, and then let that set overnight. That should stop that from happening. Servo wires, I didn't like what they did on here, and again I'm doing my best to try and show you this on the iPad. There is like you're supposed to go round that, but I just went straight through, and I have trench cut out the trench for the wiring looms to be running. And again, to be honest, the other side is pretty much exactly the same as what I've been and done there. Right, let's turn it back over. What have I got on here in my notes? Yeah, glue. Oh, the spars. You do get 2 spars in each of the V-tails, and there's also 2 spars on the inside of the Model 2. I don't trust anybody else's gluing, so I did run some extra CA glue down all of those components just because I'm paranoid. We got donor spar, Tower Pro servos, control horns. I didn't like their control horns. I'm using my own. I'll put a link to some decent quality ones in the video description for you. They're a million times better. We've got the Flytron strobe. I'm not going to turn that on because I just won't be able to see you because there's enough dots in my eyes. It is ridiculously bright. They're a couple of quid. I've bought a couple of them. They are fantastic. So, and I've also bought the little glass dome to go on it as well. Super cool. Very cool. What else we've got? Fly temperature. Now, I glued the model together with Yoo-Hoo Pour. Now, what I've found out since in other models that Yoo-Hoo Pour does turn like a yellow piss colour. That's the best way of me explaining it. So if you do use Yoo-Hoo Pour on joining your Mini Talon together, clean up any seam mess or any mess off the seams, because that will turn yellow in the sunlight. So yeah, it stuck the model together very well, but the downside to that is that it has, well, it will turn piss yellow. There's no other ways of phrasing that. I'm not that impressed with Yoo-Hoo Pour. I should have used a different glue instead. And dare I say it, even if 15-minute epoxy would have worked really well. But do note there is a lot of models to stick together. So maybe even using a goop style glue would have been more suitable. But Yoo-Hoo Pour is actually holding this model together. And again, I've put laminate on top, so it ain't going to fall apart in the sky, put it that way. What else have we got in there? Now, when it comes to the cage inside for the Vector, now I am using a Vector flight controller on mine. I am a big fan of the Eagle Tree Vector. It does have a cage inside, which I'm not too sure you're going to be able to see here on, well, kind of on the iPad. I've just checked over there. Like I said, I'll include photographs at the end for you. I did make a false bottom, or floor for the bottom of the cage, which you get provided. Now, I did use a piece of foam board for that, and because, like I said, I'm super paranoid, I did put an extra piece of foam board underneath. Now, before you put everything together, or you put these 2 halves of your fuselage together, because it will come to you in 2 parts, do test fit that it does go together, because I found when on my test fit, is that cage, and I put the 2 layers of board on the bottom, the one which was on the very bottom was hitting the sides of the fuselage, so I just quickly trimmed that up. If I'd put glue on the 2 halves and then tried putting the model together, then I can tell you that would have been really panic stations and 50-50 if I'd got the model together as nicely as I did. So yeah, learn from my mistakes, well, learn from what I learned there, which is do test fit the 2 halves together just to make sure everything fits together, and yeah, go from there. Now, you won't be able to see this on the iPad, unfortunately, but what I'm using is some cable tie restraints inside to keep all the wiring out to the sides, and that's just made a really, really neat finish on there. I'm super impressed with the wiring inside. It does still look like a bit of a bird's nest, to be honest, but it is actually very tidy at the same time. Now let's move on to the nose, which is the last piece which I'm going to cover in this episode with you. Is what I've done is that I found some plans from a fellow pilot, and he 3D printed out this little plate on here, which perfectly fits on the front of the Talon. It was designed for the Mini Talon. It did come with a circular platform, which I also printed, but I didn't like. So what I've been and done, and underneath here we have a little servo mounted underneath, and again the full parts list will be in the video description for you, is I've made a plywood plate, just a 3mm plywood plate, sprayed it silver because I knew that the wings were going to be silver, and then I've got mounted on top, I've got the Runcam 2, which is also cable tied to that plate. Again, I'm super paranoid. And then underneath there, the servo control horn is screwed and epoxied to that plate as well. Call me paranoid, but I've seen how fast these models come into land, so an extra bit of epoxy was time well spent. Like I said, I am using the Runcam Owl on the front nose. Fantastic piece of kit. And I've also, well, while I was at it, I also printed off this bumper. So let me just move that around so you can see what I've put on there. I have seen these models land numerous times, and I know that they come in hot. And they really do like to fly fast, and they also like to land fast. So I thought the bumper was a good idea. I did glue in the wheel underneath. Now time will only tell whether if that was a good idea or not. I know many other people have not put the wheel in on their model. If it lasts a couple of flights, then I'll be frankly surprised. Now I am just going to quickly check my note on there. Yeah, all the parts which I've used, I will put links to all the individual parts, including the 3D printed parts which I've got on here as well. Now do note, if you don't have a 3D printer, don't panic. There's many sites on the interwebs where you can provide the STL files and they will print it for you. I would guess about, and again, I may be wholly incorrect, so this is only very roughly, I would guess that plate up there would cost about £10 plus postage, and probably about £5 for the front bumper as well. But use that as a very rough guide. It probably will be more expensive than that. And that's it. Oh, and I also had a 3D printed antenna mount out there, which I will make a point of showing you on here, because I'm using the L9R. For maximum, well, you need the antennas at 90 degrees. So I have printed off this little 3D printed this little mount. That is then gooped glue in, and you'll also see that I put some goop glue on the antennas to hold them into the holders. And because I'm super paranoid, I then also put cable ties around them as well. Now I have been to set this up with the Vector. I did find that a little bit tricky. I won't cover that in this episode, but I'd also like to, Dave, you know who you are, and I'd like to say a big, fantastic thank you to Dave Pinnock for his help, just reminding me the basics of setting up a Vector. And actually, in hindsight now, it was all very straightforward to do. And that's it. That is my Mini Talon. Today is her maiden day, and I frankly cannot wait to take her out for a spin around. She has very much grown upon me. I do like this model a lot, and I will be point blank honest with you. If I smash this model up today, I will come back home and buy another one immediately. That's how much I like this model. I've seen them fly on the flight line so many times before. I'm so glad that I bought one. It's a lot of model. Look at the size of it for 50 quid approximately. You can pick them up for less if you see different deals on different sites. They are a fantastic model in the sky, and like I said, I haven't even maidened her yet. If I did smash it up today, I, without reservation, would go and buy another one. I have really grown to like this model a lot. And on that note, I'm gonna wrap this episode up now. Like I said, I'll include lots and lots of photographs of all the different key sections of this model for you. If you found this episode helpful, do me a favor, press the thumbs up button underneath. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, remember to hit the subscribe button too. If you have a question about this model, please just ask in the comment section underneath this episode. And on that note, today is her maiden day, and I cannot wait to take her out and chuck her. I must actually include this in. Unlike other models which you would normally launch at say 30 or higher degrees in the sky, this is one of the rare models which you have to launch straight. So do not give her plenty of throttle. Don't put her up in the air like that. No, not an angle like that. It's got to be straight. You need to get maximum airflow over those wings, otherwise she'll stall. And unfortunately, I've seen that too many times. And if you read out on the intervals and watch videos of the biggest challenge with this model is around that tail piece, which hopefully that carbon fibre strip sorts it, and it's to do with the launch. Now, I will be running mine nose heavy. In fact, I'm going to make a point of showing you on the iPad on this one is the CG line is supposedly just about here where the servo lead is. I'm actually going to be running mine up here on this front line, or on this ridge here, and then I may also play a little bit safer and run it even more nose heavy as well, just because I'm paranoid. And then once I've got her up in the air, I can trim her in, and then I can mess around with the CG later. Oh, and one other thing I didn't mention, I'm using the Multi-Star 5200 4S packs. I've bought a couple of these, not only for this model, but also for the Phantom FX61-2. Brilliant packs. Yeah, flight time, I don't know, depends how hard you rag it, to be honest. Yeah, I've seen flight times of 40 minutes plus with these, with the same battery. And I can tell you that they've not been hanging around, getting out and coming back, and then pottering around when they come back, and still having plenty of battery left in there as well. Bonkers efficiency. So on that note, I will leave a gallery at the end of this episode of all the key parts on this model. And from myself, Matt, thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch this episode. This is my Mini Talon for 2017. And like I said, today is a maiden day, and I cannot wait to go and chuck her. And make sure you're subscribed so you'll find out how well or how bad the maiden went. And to be honest, I think it will go fine. So on that note, for myself, Matt, cheerios!